giving McCree 225 HP. At its core, Overwatch has always been about mistakes. Now I know you either click this video because you want to win more games, or, like the Roadhog OTP on my team, you would like to tell me why I am wrong and you are right. Either way, I get a view, so go me. Anyways, on to mistakes. First of all, you must understand that what makes Overwatch so special is that instead of who makes the most right plays, the winning team will always be the team that makes the least mistakes. Take going for a flank as Pharah, for example, to assassinate the enemy Widow. You take the time to route to the enemy backline, but by the time you get there, the other 5 players on your team are dead. Even though you personally made one right play, meaning 0 mistakes, your Reinhardt went in too early, your D.Va wasted DM, your McCree was playing too far up, and your BAP wasted lamp before the fight started, therefore causing your flank to fail. With some big brain calculations, you can see that your team made 4 mistakes, which they all got punished for, eventually causing your team to lose the team fight. To flip the story, say your team makes the same mistakes, but the enemy team takes too long to shoot them down, and your team ends up sustaining to buy you time for your flank. By not punishing the mistakes your team made, the enemies made an equal amount of mistakes, which lets your flank be the difference maker in the fight. Now you can use that position to easily exploit the mistakes the enemy team is bound to be making later in that fight. Key to truly controlling and understanding Overwatch is to understand the different types of mistakes and how to punish mistakes. As you climb higher in the competitive Overwatch scene, these mistakes become less frequent. Say a gold team might make 200 mistakes in a game, while a GM team might only make 30 in a game, unless, of course, you have me on your team. The number of mistakes in the game gets lower and lower all the way up to contenders and Owl. I put mistakes into 2 categories, macro and micro mistakes, or, if you don't want to sound pretentious, team mistakes and personal problems. Within macro mistakes, there are 3 major mistakes teams make: timing, positioning, and general fight planning. In simpler terms, when, where, and what. For example, say your team is playing double bubble on Temple of Anubis' first attack into Orisa D.Va's spam comp. Firstly, in order to identify mistakes, you must first understand win conditions of certain compositions of heroes, in addition to learning the win conditions of the 3 playstyles: Brawl, Spam, and Dive. But this video would be longer than all of One Piece if I went deep into that, so I'm just going to give one example of how to identify and punish mistakes at a macro level. In this case, Double Bubble wants to play from Monkey Tracer dives, hit scan picks, and most importantly, Nano Monkey. As a spam team, your win condition is to poke out the enemy tanks and survive the dive if the tanks are unable to close the distance. Although spam is usually considered strong because it is not as ability based as the other 2 playstyles, against dive, ability usage becomes the only way to survive the dive. For example, when the inevitable Nano Monkey jumps into your team, you must have abilities on hand that can counter it. Briggs Whipshot, Orisa's Halt, D.Va's Boosters, and Immortality Field all help counter the enemy's play. In this matchup, the Double Bubble team should ideally wait to Nano Monkey until the spam team makes a mistake, such as wasting boosters to chase your Tracer, or missing a whipshot on the Zarya. These mistakes create the opportunity the dive team is looking for to then Nano Monkey and capitalize on the lack of abilities the spam team has. On the other hand, the same thing goes for the spam team. All the spam team needs to do is 1. Survive the poke dives, and 2. Survive the dive team's ult, such as Nano Monkey. Say, for example, the monkey gets nanoed into your team when you have Bongo up, and just goes down faster than my SR. This mistake from the Double Bubble team just won the spam team the fight. Using the frameworks of first identifying the win conditions, and then identifying how to punish them and not get punished by the enemies, helps to better understand how to punish mistakes on both a micro and macro level. Speaking of a micro level, let's get to all the mistakes you make in your comp games and/or scrims. Once again, using the rule of 3s because why not, the 3 types of micro mistakes are positioning, mechanics, and resource usage, meaning ults, abilities, and ammo. If you find yourself losing duels that you should be winning on pencil and paper, you probably make a lot of mechanics mistakes in a game that could easily tally up and make it so your team is making more mistakes than the other team. Personally, I recommend Kovacs, Tryhard, and Aimlabs in that order to work on making less mistakes in this category. On the flip side, if you notice that one of the players on the other team is missing a lot of shots, aka making mechanics mistakes, look to punish them, take more duels with them, make more risky plays, take more aggressive angles, abuse their bad aim in any way you can think of that doesn't cause you to be too far out of position so that you can be punished by a different player. Next, positioning mistakes. Arguably the most important of the 3, since they can determine if other players on your team live or if you die. Firstly, if you are positioning too far away from the rest of your team, you are likely being rewarded with a teleport to the glorious spawn room in return for your bad positioning mistake. Additionally, your bad positioning might force the rest of your team to push into the same bad position in order to protect you, which causes them to die, and your one mistake starts a chain of mistakes, similarly to how Blizzard added a hero with 300 HP, and then gave them a stun, and then gave them another CC, and then gave them an AoE heal, and then gave them the ability to overheal without ult and with ult. Although positioning is a hard skill to learn, once you truly understand the limitations of certain heroes' kits in terms of where they should stand, you can identify when the enemies are standing out of place, and all you have to do is shoot them and tell your team to shoot them. For example, in a Sig, Ball, Tracer, Hanzo, Zen, Brig, Mirror, if your ball scouts and sees that the Brig is pushed up really far from the Zen, the ball can call that the Zen is alone from the Brig and bring the Tracer over to punish the Zen for being split from their Brig. Lastly, resource usage. In your comp games, you likely already call out when the enemy team makes resource usage mistakes, of course, without calling it that. For example, let's dive Moira since she has no fade, or Kree no flash, you can stop holding Blossom all game. These are perfect examples of how you can punish the enemy team for making micro mistakes. On the flip side, think about trying to Nanoblade. Nanoblade always gets more value when used mid-fight, or when Zeke is not the Genji, than at the start of a fight. This is because as the fight progresses, more resources are used, meaning less are saved to counter the Nanoblade, which means the ultimate resource cannot easily be countered by the enemy's resources. For similar reasons, Bob should also be used mid-fight for the most value. To summarize, Overwatch games are won by making fewer mistakes than the other team. Making fewer mistakes yourself, in addition to working on punishing the enemy's mistakes, will help you win more games and better understand the game as a whole. But if you want to make zero mistakes in all your games, then drop a like and subscribe.